Now it's recording. And that's a lovely start to this webinar. I'm just going to recap what I was just saying there for the benefit of people that are going to be watching the replay. So welcome to the 5 steps for building your business brand on LinkedIn. I find that LinkedIn is a platform that is a little bit of a mystery to a lot of people, particularly because they mostly think that it's just a spot where you go to look for a job when you're kind of in that moment of, oh heavens, I need something new. A lot of the ladies that I'm connected with in the online coaching space, LinkedIn is something that they know nothing about, and they keep coming to me asking for some insights and tips on it. And finally, I was like, I should just put something together, and then you guys can just watch the whole thing. So that's how we arrived here. So what we are going to be talking about today, 5 steps: who uses LinkedIn and why they use it, how to stand out in your area of expertise, how to find your target client, how to establish a relationship and build know, like, trust, and how you know if your efforts are bang on or if you need to tweak your approach. So LinkedIn is not just for job seekers. It can definitely be a valuable tool for the business owner, how we can really be establishing ourselves in our business, what we do and who we are, and really set ourselves up as that expert to be connecting with the people in our audience. Because when we think about LinkedIn, yes, the average person that's on there is that working professional, but that doesn't mean that they don't need our services. So that is a really nice segue into step 1. But before I get there, I realized I just want to cover a little bit about how this webinar is going to go. So I'm going to flip back and forth between myself talking here and doing some screen share for you guys. So that'll go that way. You guys are all muted there. So if you have any questions, you can just type them into the chat box. Julia is going to be the moderator there. So if you have a comment pop up, she'll make sure that either that she responds to it or that my attention gets drawn to it otherwise. Okay, so now step 1, who uses LinkedIn and why do they use it? The first step of building your brand on LinkedIn is understanding who uses it and why they're using it. Why does it actually matter? Because it's going to help you to understand the context of how you need to be communicating with them. So what does that actually mean? So as I just mentioned before, when we think about who's using LinkedIn, it's that typically it's your white collar employee, it's a professional in their space. Generally it's your 9-to-5er, kind of, you know, when you think of that person. But when you think about from a business perspective, who your ideal client is, there's a very, you know, there's that good percentage that they have a day job, that they're doing something, you know, between their 9-to-5 or 5-to-9 or whatever it is, and they're using LinkedIn. So if you already know that your ideal client is that person in a professional position, then you can make a good assumption to assume that they're on LinkedIn. Now, whether or not they're active on LinkedIn, that's a whole other story, but you can make an assumption that they're going to be on there. I mean, LinkedIn has over 500 million users, which is actually really funny. This morning I uncovered an old video that I made in 2014, one all about LinkedIn, and my stats was like, there are 300 million users of LinkedIn. I'm like, oh gosh, that's like a 200 million growth in 4 years. I don't know if that's phenomenal or not, but I'm like, if I grew that much in 4 years, could you imagine? Anyways, so we look at what does your ideal client do for that living? Are they going to be on LinkedIn? So why is that ideal client of yours coming to LinkedIn? They're not there just to be finding jobs. Some of them might be if they don't know how to be using LinkedIn properly, but they are coming there to build up and to maintain their professional network, to stay connected with their people, to share and gather information about their industry, trends, marketplace, how to be a better employee or how to be a better leader, and to help others. I see Heather has just joined us. Hello, Heather. And my last point there about helping others, I've definitely found over the years that LinkedIn is very, very much a helping platform. People really genuinely help there. Someone might post a question, maybe they're working on a project at work or they're working with a client and they have a particular challenge. You post a question about that and heaven knows you're going to get, you know, dozens of responses of people in your space or relative to your space, and they're going to be offering you some guidance and some help and suggestions and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why I do love LinkedIn, is because it is a very genuine place. It's not a platform that you're feeling, you know, things are salesy or things are icky or anything like that. Which, because of that, the way that we present ourselves on LinkedIn as that business owner, we have to keep that in mind so that we're putting through our authenticity and our value. So it's a very engaging platform. So how does that really impact how you talk to them? You know, you can talk to them about how your service can help them succeed in their life or career, because that's why they're there, right? They're there for the purpose of career, professional development to some capacity. So if you're talking with them about how whatever it is that you do can help them to succeed in their career path, or help them to gain better work-life balance, or help them to present themselves more professionally or what have you, then it's going to connect with them and make sense with them. If you just hopped on there and you said, oh, my services is going to, like, let's say if someone was a health coach, oh, my services, I'm going to help you lose 20 pounds by next summer. Well, like, that's not going to resonate with them there, because that's just junk in the feed, right? But then if the positioning is, you know, my services as a health coach, I'm going to help you to feel better about yourself, make your health a priority, which is going to allow you to be more present and vibrant in your work, then they start thinking, oh yeah, okay, I got that. That makes sense. Okay, so now we move on to step 2, how to stand out in your area of expertise. So in just a moment, I'm going to flip over to my LinkedIn page. And show you guys a few things there. So for those of you that are not terribly familiar with LinkedIn, then this will be helpful. And then for those of you that are, I'm just going to do there, Bob. Oh, there's me. Hello, Bob. For those of you that do know LinkedIn, this part might be a little bit of a repeat for you, but okay. So LinkedIn, it's that social platform, right? You know, it's full of noise, and the challenge is I cannot minimize Zoom when you're recording. How do I share my screen then? Here we go. Screen and share. Okay. So what am I saying? LinkedIn, it's the social platform. There's a lot of noise. So how are you fighting against the noise? So the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you are presenting yourself on your profile accurately. So if we go over to my profile here, a couple things that you can do just right off the bat. Use the banner space right here. To be able to provide some kind of something about yourself. In terms of what I've used here, you know, I've made sure I've got my website on there. I've got some of my branded images on there. So again, I'm making sure that my brand here aligns with my website, and it's going to align with other spaces that I have. You want to make sure that you have a nice headline about yourself. When it comes to the headline, you want to be very literal in what you're doing and who you are. And the reason for that is that people don't search, let's say, fun terms. People search for specific things. People come here and they search career coach, marketing specialist, or like they're searching for like that name. Nobody ever comes here to search for a ninja or a guru or a something along those lines. And I saw a tiny little smile crack on Nicola's face there. She's like, that's right. So while you're being very literal in that description of the header, also make sure that it still just kind of adds a little something. I like giving, 3 different options of what I do as to just a single statement, so you can kind of make it more robust. Make sure that your contact information is going to be up to date. You can direct them to your website, direct them to your email, and social profiles. Unfortunately, they don't have Instagram to connect to your Instagram, which is definitely becoming more of a business space for people, but Twitter as it is. Make sure that that's appropriately done so people know how to connect with you. Make sure that you make your profile public. I'm just gotta move you guys here. And you do that by clicking on Edit Public Profile and URL. And if I can think for a moment, your visibility. Whoops. Hello, Lynn Stevenson and Sarah Cochran. You guys have popped in. So right on here, your profile's public visibility, make sure that's on so that if somebody comes over here and they search you and they look at you, they get that full view of your profile. All right, and then we have the summary section. So kind of like your summary section is kind of like that teaser for who you are and what you do. People are going to read that before they fully read the rest, right? Your most important part on your summary section is the first 3 lines, only because that's the spot that stays visible when this is hidden. So you want to make it very clear and impactful in those first 3 lines who you are and what you do and what the benefit of what you offer, how what you offer is going to have a benefit for someone. So just going from that notion, when someone's come to your profile, you want to, smack them right in the face with, this is who I am and this is the value that I deliver. Okay, so that's our first bit on standing out in your area of expertise, just making it very evident here. And then, of course, in your experiences, putting the appropriate information down in there as well. So next, sorry guys. Next, we want to think about your ideal client. So now I'm just going to pop back up here, stop sharing my screen for a moment. Okay, so now we're back here. So thinking about your ideal client, you want to be strategic in who you are connecting with. So don't just go and connect with anybody and everyone. Instead, think of that notion of, okay, if my ideal client is someone who works in this kind of industry or has this kind of need or is at this kind of level, then you're going to seek out those people to be connecting with them, right? Whereas if you're just going out and connecting with anyone and everyone, then when you're communicating your messages, you're not necessarily speaking to those particular people, right? So for example, my target with career coaching typically is an individual between 30 into late 40s, mid-level professional, someone who identifies with not really connecting in their current career, right? So if I was hopping onto LinkedIn and purposefully adding to my connections, I'm not going to go and start connecting with a whole bunch of 20-year-olds that are fresh on LinkedIn, because that's not my target. And then I'm not going to go and go reach out to all kinds of executives and start trying to connect with them, because that's not my target. But rather maybe looking at a current client, looking at their contact list and picking off people off of their contact list to make a connection with, right? Okay, so then we also want to be strategic in what we're sharing. So if we follow an 80-20 rule, because again, people are coming to LinkedIn because they want to, essentially they want to access some kind of information that's going to be helpful for their career. So, you know, people are constantly sharing articles, they're sharing posts, they're sharing something that's helpful about their space, right? So you want to be sharing something that's helpful about your space. You follow an 80-20 rule, 80% curated content, 20% original content, and you want to be consistent in sharing valuable content that relates to the business, your business service or your product, B, the need and the interest of your target audience, and C, their desired outcome. So what I mean by curated content is content written by somebody else. You don't necessarily want to take content from your competitors, because then you're just directing people to your competitors. So, so for example, Nicola, with your wonderful new website, queermojo.ca, as I'm like, oh, promoting competitors. But I'm not necessarily going to share Nicola's content once she starts putting out her own content. I wouldn't necessarily do that, because then I'm putting a competitor of mine in front of my ideal clients, unless for example, Nicola was specifically working with those 20 to 25-year-olds or something like that. If she was working with a younger demographic, then it would make sense. But otherwise, going to reputable sites, you can use a content aggregator. We use Feedly a lot. So you just, you know, go plug in and you put, like we put the Globe and Mail, a whole bunch of different, publication sites where we're going to pull articles from, and we can pop over there, pick out a couple, and then get those posted. And then when we do have our own content, then we trickle that in. But we don't want to overwhelm people with our own content, because we want to be viewed as that person who is providing greater value to what they need. And then the fourth point on that is your best timing practices. So historically, yes, Nicola's saying to diversify. And oh, here, I can mute Sarah. Sorry, I missed that. And I'm gonna mute. Don't have a mute button there. Okay, Nicola's saying yes, diversify. So make sure that you are sharing a variety of content. So if you think of what's your space, think of, you know, maybe think about 4 or 5 different areas or topics that that would be relevant, and then picking those, you know, sub themes from those aspects, so that you're providing a whole bunch. Okay, so Julia's got that. Okay, so let's see. Best timing practices. So the best time to be posting on LinkedIn is between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. historically, anyways. I have been reading articles that are saying that that time frame isn't as relevant anymore. But I always see the best results on our content between 8 and 10. And that's mostly because people, either on their commute into work, they're checking into their LinkedIn, or when they get there first thing in the morning, taking a peek at it and having a look, checking messages. Because LinkedIn does have that messaging feature, a lot of like work conversations happen on LinkedIn. Oddly enough, they have it on Facebook too, which I find is weird, but we're not here for Facebook. Okay. Okay, so then that takes us to step 3, how to find your target client. So as I mentioned above, we want to be strategic about who we are connecting with. So I'm going to hop on, share my screen again, and share. Here we go, back into our delightful LinkedIn. So what we're going to look at are different ways to search people, job titles, and companies. So I think the first thing we're going to do is start with searching a company. If anybody wants to pop in what their business is, or what their focus is, then I'll come up with a company that would make sense, hopefully. And I think I see that Lynn is typing. Julia, I can't see the chat because I've got all this minimized. So when something pops up, if you can just let me know. You're not muted, so I'll be able to.
Oh, sorry. I'm like going to text you. We've got genealogy, HR consulting, or agriculture.
Okay. So if we think of, sorry, what did I say? HR consulting, genealogy, and agriculture. Is that what you said there? Okay, so let's think.
Three, yeah.
Okay, the HR consulting. So if we think of that, so then, and I'm assuming that's Stacy. So knowing what I know about Stacy, so Stacy is in KW, and the organization that they work with a lot of tech companies. So let's just say I want to come here and I would say, where can I find some ideal clients for myself? So if I think of a local technology company, as there's like 5,000 in Kitchener-Waterloo, I'm like, I can't think of one other than Google, of course, but I don't want to do Google. Let's do Vidyard. They're my example for everything. Okay, so let's just say, so my first step in identifying who might be an ideal client for an HR consultant, go to a company of where someone that you might want to hit up. Right, so you search the company and then you do the delightful click on all 252 employees on LinkedIn. They're not that big yet. And you start coming in to look at all of their people in here. So what Stacy would want to do is find who are the HR people in here. And she can do that simply by starting to filter through locations. So we want to pick the Kitchener. We're going to do all filters, and we're going to put in I think we can put in a function in here. Title, human resources. And then we're going to apply that filter. And then there's no HR people at Vidyard. Who knew? It's a poor example, you guys, but regardless, so that's how you go. So maybe they use a different.
Stacy said she thinks they use a funky name.
I was gonna say they must use a funky name like People Lovers or something. I don't know. Okay, so then if we think of genealogists, then if we were to clear this, oh gosh, genealogists. Oh goodness, I can't even think of how well that one's going to work. Instead, let's think of genealogists. So your ideal client for a genealogist, what would the age range of your average client? What would you say the age range of your average client is? What kind of job, what kind of career, or even one of your last clients, what kind of occupations did they have? I'll let you, if you want to type that in, Sarah, and then Julia, if you want to read it out when it comes.
Age range 50 to 60, retired.
That makes sense. Okay, so then you guys are giving me all the hard ones.
Agriculture, that was another one. Artists. Agriculture and artistry were two others.
Agriculture and artists, okay. This chat's coming up. Let me think. Oh, my creativity on the spot is just not doing it for me. Agriculture. Okay, so if we did agriculture, then an organization could be John
Deere?
John Deere, sure. If you guys were selling to John Deere. Anyway, so now we could come here and then find 36,000 employees. So then you can start to use the filters on it. Hey, where's my filters on it? There we go. John Deere locations. There's no, oh, I'm going to type in Canada. If you don't see your location, then just plop one in there. A lot of times I will actually just scroll. I'll scroll and I'll look at the people. I'll look at their positions. And then that can help you figure out who your person is. But regardless, I'm totally getting off track here and spending way too much time. So what you want to do, think of the organization. You go and you look at the people list, and then you can use your filters here to narrow it down. You can narrow it down to job title. You can narrow it down further to seniority levels. All of those pieces, you apply it, and then you're going to get a more refined list. And then you can send out a connection request to them. Okay, so then next we have step 4, which is establishing your know, like, and trust, or establishing the relationship with individuals, and building up that know, like, trust. So the way that we're establishing the relationship with people is through our engagement with them. So it's through the content that we're sharing, and then the way that we are connecting with people. So it's not that we're just posting stuff out there, but being able to respond back to the people that we're following. So let's say, you know, I'm following Beth out there. I've identified her as an ideal client, and I want to start engaging a little bit with what she's posting. So, you know, I might drop a comment on something that she said, and making sure that it's an insightful comment, not just a, oh, that's a good point, or yes, I agree, or anything like that. But again, being able to say something in response to what they're posting that has value. So when it comes to reaching out to the people that you have identified, you're sending them a connection request. And when you're doing that, you have the option to send them a message with the connection request. You can do that. Honestly, it's totally up to you whether or not you're going to do it. I don't necessarily recommend doing it all of the time, because the majority of us get that connection request on our phone, and we're not reading the message that comes with it, right? If you're accepting the connection request on your desktop, you're gonna be more apt to read that message. If you feel it's suitable to provide context of why you're connecting with them, then send that message. But if you're sending out cold contact requests, it's not like, you know, it's not like Julia and I are going to go out there and message, connect with people and literally say in our messaging, oh, here we are and we're doing this and we're, you know, brand specialists and we'd love to connect with you. Because that's probably in itself is going to turn them off, because they're like, oh, what? You're just trying to sell me something. They don't need to know that that is my end game. But what I find more appropriate is you send through that connection request, wait for them to accept it. When they accept it, you just send a nice thank you for accepting my connection request. Literally something as simple as that, where you just establish the polite courtesy of acknowledging the fact that they've accepted your connection request. You can drop in another little something about you look forward to engaging with them in the future. And that just creates that nice, like, oh, that was really nice of Melissa to say that. Oh, okay. And then when and if I start engaging with her, my name is already somewhere stored in her head that, oh, right, yep, I recall now who that is, instead of just being the mystery person, right? So as you're growing your contact base, you want to be thinking about how you're giving them that value. So this is where the know, like, trust part comes in. So back in step 2, when I was talking about the content that you're sharing, we want to make, when we think about the value of the content that we're sharing, yes, we're sharing the curated content. But when we look at our own content that we're sharing, we want to be able to, at some point, be funneling them back to our website, which is going to be showing, like, highlighting off our services or whatnot. A lot of the business activity on Facebook is, when we think about sharing our own content, a lot of that is all of those opt-ins and, you know, download this or join me for this or join me for this webinar. Thanks guys for coming. And all of those pieces, but that's not necessarily the kind of value that that I'm talking about when I'm saying, you know, deliver value on LinkedIn. It's more or less where can I be pointing you for resources to be helping you? I don't always want people thinking, well, every time that Melissa posts her own stuff, it's always where she wants my email address for something. It's always a sell. It's always a push. Instead, it's maybe it's blog posts where and articles that I've published on my website or my platform, and that's where they're going to go. And the occasional thing in there, sure, I'll drop in the, oh, hey, I've got this great download. If you're interested, it would be really helpful for you for these purposes and these reasons. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And then, of course, you can also access groups. So groups on LinkedIn are very different from groups on Facebook. They're not nearly as robust and delightful as Facebook groups are, if anybody participates in those. But that's not to say that there's not value to them. So if you can identify groups within LinkedIn that would have a good number of your target audience in there, then you can participate in those groups and engage with people in there as well. And then our last step, which is how to know if your efforts are bang on or if you need to tweak your approach, is I'm going to flip back over to my screen, and I'm going to show you guys real quick how you can tell if what you're doing makes sense. You go over to your profile. So on our personal profiles, we don't get a delightful array of analytics, but what we do get through this search, find out how many times you've been searched in the past week, we get told 3 things. Where did your searchers work? What do your searchers do? And what are the keywords that they've used? So I come to this a lot to find out who is coming to my profile, because if I'm putting out the right kind of content, I should be getting people from my ideal audience base coming to my profile. So I use LinkedIn mostly for my career coaching as opposed to business branding with Julia. So what I always want to be seeing on here is keyword searches. I want to see career coach. I want to see consultant. I want to see even stuff around like human resources or personal brandings or resume. When I don't see those keywords, then I start thinking, okay, what am I putting out there lately? And I need to rejig. When I look at what my searchers do, if I see like a lot of senior occupations on here, then I'm thinking like, woo, I'm moving up in the world. No, I'm kidding. Then I'm thinking, okay, so I'm not connecting with who I have identified as my target audience. And then for me, looking at where they're coming from, that's kind of all over the map. But so someone in agriculture, you would probably want to see a whole different set of companies here that would be related to your agricultural fields, right? So that is how I'm able to tell, and how you can tell too, is if you're hitting on that target audience and if they're coming to your profile. Okay, so that actually sums me up, and we have 1 minute and 40 seconds left. Oh my gosh, Julia. So that's the end. So we just talked about who uses LinkedIn, why they use it, how to stand out in your area of expertise, find your target clients, how to establish the relationship, and how to know if your efforts are bang on. If you guys have questions, you can definitely ask them. I think most of you guys were connected somewhere on social media. You can always drop those questions in there. But in my last minute, what I'm going to tell you guys is, if any of you guys are interested, you should be receiving an email from us. It might have already come to your inbox. It's got an amazing offer for you. This is literally going to end in less than a minute, so I'm going to get cut off. I'm sorry, guys. There's a really great offer if you're really concerned about your brand and you want to grow and build your brand a little bit better. We've put together a package. There's my mom with her dog. You're distracting me, Mom. If you're looking to build your brand, we put a great offer out there. You'll get the email. It's full of all the details. We can help you to really hone in on who you are, what you're doing, who your audience is, how you're talking to them, and your best platform for that. So you can keep your eyes peeled for that. And yeah, you will get that momentarily. So I am, the dog heard my voice. Hello, Toby. Okay. This is the end. So we're going to wrap it up. Like I said, if you guys have questions, you know how to connect with us, and you'll